Hello, hello. Welcome. I'm super excited. I've got my friend Alex here. We're going to be talking about his upcoming event. I just got to first start by telling you I have become a naysayer to virtual summits. I've been invited to be part of a lot of them. And after a while, just felt like I wasn't, for the amount of effort I had to put into being part of a virtual summit as a speaker, it wasn't really helping my business. And I started to really question the model. And honestly, now I want to say that Alex is giving me hope that the model itself isn't the problem, that it's maybe the way we're approaching things. So with that, I want to invite Alex to come join us. Alex Brueckmann, welcome, welcome. Really excited to have you here. I sent an email out this morning that really kind of outlined my sort of feelings around virtual summits and how saying yes to yours was the exception to a rule that I had sort of put in place like 12 months ago. Um, it's just very different. So first, I just want to welcome you. Can you just, in a sentence or two, just explain kind of what is this event that we're about to talk more about?
Thanks, Robbie. Thanks for the introduction. And honestly speaking, I'm honored that you made this an exception to the rule. I have to start by saying this is the first time I actually thought about running a virtual summit of that size. A 3-day event is nothing that you just pull out of your arm. So there is a lot of work that goes into it. But since I've never done anything of that size before, I kind of approached it with a clean slate. And I wanted to have an event that creates a ripple effect, that does something good, and it's not for profit. So I don't want to make money with it. I just set it out to be something that is truly helpful for entrepreneurs and business owners. And from that perspective, I started looking for someone who could help me bring it to life. And then in the co-creation process, those elements that you mentioned that drew you in eventually, they emerged.
Yeah. And we're going to outline what some of those key elements are. So if you are a person out there watching this who's considered running a virtual summit to build your email list, or maybe you've already done this and it's been a lot of work and maybe hasn't led to the results you were hoping for. I mean, my latest book, Small List, Big Results, is really about how just like promotion and lead gen without knowing who you're promoting to or what you should be promoting doesn't usually lead to the best outcome. So you want to really be thoughtful about who you're trying to attract in. And so it sounds like you started with that, right, Alex? You really had a keen sense of who you wanted to attract in. So say a little bit about the work you do in the world and why was this, how is this like legacy event relate to that and like who you are and how you want to show up?
So I've been working in the business strategy space for more than 15 years now. So what that means is I help organizations and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and personal brand businesses define where they want to be in a few years down the road and how they actually get there. So we're not talking about marketing tactics or something like that. We're really talking about creating a strategy for your business. And when I transitioned from serving large corporate clients mainly to focusing more on smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, and business owners, I realized that there is a lot of talk about strategy, but there is not so much talk about how can you leverage your business as a force for good on the one hand, and on the other hand, create a strategy that encompasses those elements, both working to build a profitable, thriving enterprise on the one hand, and on the other hand, doing something good with that. So I then had kind of an epiphany moment last year when I attended Professor Henderson's course, Sustainable Business Strategy at Harvard Business School, where she talked about doing good while doing well. And that sentence just stuck like glue. And after that, I asked myself, how am I leveraging my own business in order to do good while doing well? The doing well piece
awesome.
works, but how can I as a business strategist? I mean, my background is in entrepreneurship. I studied business administration. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an engineer. I can't use my knowledge to directly help people do good in the world. But I can leverage my business in a way to create a ripple effect. And that's when I started to reach out to so many people and so many joined. And yeah, I'm super grateful. We have 45 speakers from around the world that help us get this message out there.
Well, I remember initially I got a message on LinkedIn. So that's the other thing that's really interesting about how we ended up meeting, because LinkedIn, you get a lot of sort of spammy messages. You connect with someone, they immediately are pitching you something. And there was something about how you approached even that conversation that caught my eye. And I mean, I almost want to reverse engineer all this, because this is where my defenses are high. Like my BS detector is high when I'm looking at these LinkedIn messages from people I don't know. And then I went to your website and the language in your website. And this is what's so key about what I've been teaching these days. Your language spoke to me. There were phrases in what you just said and what's on your website that were the kind of things I would say, the kind of things I care about were really spelled out there. And that again sort of drew me in. Now I was like curious. So I remember we met and I'm like, okay, I want to really know whether this is something I want to do. So some of the reasons I don't want to do virtual summits, I should just lay out there. If I'm invited to be a guest on someone's podcast, occasionally I'm asked to do a pre-call. It's kind of rare, maybe 1 in 20 asked me to do that. So there's sometimes a little time, but most of the time I have my topic, I submit the form, I may send them some materials, and I show up for the appointed time. We have a great conversation and it's shared. But for a summit, there's often, you have to do all this promotion. You have 5,000 people in your list. We have 20 people and they all have 5,000. So we are reaching like hundreds of thousands. I'm like, first of all, that's not true. We're not all our emails are not 100% open rate. Come on now. And I remember one time promoting, I joined a summit for young professionals and they were like pushing me to send it to my list. My list is not young professionals. I was very helpful in getting them other speakers, but that wasn't my audience, nor was the audience I was trying to acquire. So I started getting pickier about that too. Who's going to be in attendance? And then what are the promotional requirements? And do I want my people to be on this person's list? Because that's kind of it's a co-marketing, impact, right? So one of the questions I asked you, and I thought your answer was kind of interesting, are people automatically put on your business email list by showing up for the virtual summit?
Yeah, and that is different. Have you ever received a promo email? Yeah, that's just not how it goes. You can't ask people to join an event and then spam them with your stuff. You need to curate that list. Of course, an event is also a summit is also a list build event. But afterwards, you need to be very mindful of how you start to engage these people. You want to engage with them. You want to send them emails to figure out what they are actually interested in. You can't just send them products and services and be like, hey, buy my stuff. That's not what they signed up for. They signed up for, hey, I'm curious. I want to learn what this is all about. And if there's something in it for them and you approach it right, maybe eventually these people will at some point in time be curious enough to start working with you. But that should not be your first goal. Your first goal should be to help them understand what you do. And once they're interested, they will approach you. You just need to nurture them, but please don't spam them with your products and service offerings.
I mean, because that's part of what I also found kind of irritating was, entrepreneur puts together this virtual summit, badgers me to do all this promotion to my email list. And they're the ones collecting email addresses. And yes, I can give away a free product, link at, here's my gift link at the end of my talk. But the percentage that I get signups from and what that leads to is not, huge. I just love my content. Like, honestly, I kind of just want to always say yes because I love what I do and I love talking about it. But all these other layers of things really held me back. And also knowing that a lot of people do what you just described, which is they, as soon as they get people on that list, they immediately put them into their usual weekly messaging. And I think what you're talking about is an invitation and a question about what are folks interested in, and then kind of filtering out what you send people after so that they have the option to stay engaged with you or with any of the speakers they find interesting. That's the other thing I thought was amazing about your lineup. So say a little bit about the expertise level of your lineup, because this is, I think, something else that separated out this event from other things I've been part of.
I was really looking for people that can add value. So if I ask people to join a summit and invest their time, I want them to go away and say, this was totally worth it. I can't believe how much value I got here for free. And in addition, I got all these free gifts from all these speakers, books, courses, master classes, all for free. I just wanted people to be blown away by the value that they get here. And that meant I needed to go for speakers and for experts that are true masters of their craft. So that was kind of my vetting criteria. When we put the call for speakers out there, I think we had 3 or 4 times the amount of speakers that wanted to be on the summit as we actually had seats overall. And then I also had reached out to people that I really wanted to have on the summit that actually didn't apply actively. So the amount of people that I actually could take in was super limited in the end. And that made it kind of easy for me to go for quality rather than for quantity. I initially said I want to have 30 people over 3 days. But then I saw all the value that was coming my way in terms of amazing speakers. And then way more people that I approached personally actually said yes than I expected, which then in the end meant, okay, we have 50 people here. What do we do? And we narrowed it down a little bit further. But in the end, I said, hey, people can cherry pick. They can pick the sessions that they really are interested in. Let's not limit it artificially. And we went for 45. And we're talking CEOs of environmental protection organizations that everyone knows. We talk Harvard business professors. Those people know their stuff typically. So I'm super excited also about the people that maybe are not super famous, but bring unique value and a perspective that is so key in listening to. I mean, we have people that have been serving as emergency responders on the front lines for 30 years that talk about conscious leadership. Where do you find that perspective? I mean, this is so unique, and where I wanted to make this summit not about marketing tactics. A lot of summits out there are about marketing, are about how-tos. This is not necessarily a how-to summit. This is a summit that helps you look very broad from how-to. Yes, we do have how-tos, to mindset, to anything that helps you find the courage to use your business and to put a stake into the ground and say, I'm not only here to make money, I will use my business as a force for good to positively impact the community that I operate in, to help society be more just, more equitable, or to help preserve nature, the environment. So it's that moment that I had a year ago where I was like, okay, let's do this. I will start talking about this. I will put myself on the line and say, I will use my business as a force for good. And I want people to experience that during the summit.
Part of what I'm hearing as you're describing the speaker list is it's not the usual suspects at an entrepreneur summit, that you're bringing in like Harvard business professors or CEOs of companies that we ordinarily wouldn't see on this kind of circuit, which I'm really excited by that myself, because those perspectives are really valuable and not something you have access to all the time. I also know that I asked you when I was doing our pre-call about the gender and racial and other diversity factors amongst your speakers, because I'm a white guy, I'm a trans guy, I'm sort of feeding a diversity box, but no one knows it. So I'm like, well, how can I help you add to that? And I was able to show some friends of mine who do offer some great work in the world, and some of those folks I saw signed up. So I think that the fact that you're making that effort to not just have it be a homogenous panel in any sense of that, perspective included. One other thing, there's 2 other points I want to make sure we touch on. One is, given my work in the world as a virtual event design consultant and an executive Zoom producer, I have strong opinions about virtual summits also being often just drip content, like pre-record the video of the interview, and then 3 mornings in a row or 3 weeks in a row, whatever, you sort of say to people, here are the videos that are available today, and the deluge. And then are people taking action? Are they interacting? Are they talking to each other? Most virtual summits don't have a community aspect built in, which was when I was coming on to those virtual summits in 2020, that was my talk. So I was like, I'm going to make fun of you if we don't add a virtual social engagement, community connection. And you actually have 3 days that content's coming out, but 5 days that there's panels. I'm actually kind of wondering why you don't just spread the content out across the 5 days too, just to give people more time to process all of it. But you've got 5 panels, and I know I'm signed up for 2. So tell me more about how you thought about incorporating a sort of live component. And by the way, folks, the link on here is my personalized link for you to check it out, which I'll make sure it goes into the comments as well. So yeah, but tell me a little more about how you decided to have these panels, this live interaction.
So obviously you can imagine that I'm not producing this summit on my own. It's not my strength. I am not an event producer, and especially not an event producer of that size and of that, let's say, scope. So I started very early to get people on board that would take those elements of my hands where I'm just not knowledgeable enough. So I could fully focus on finding the right people, curating the content, and making sure that the event is valuable for entrepreneurs and business owners tuning in. And the people that I have in my team, especially Jenny Wright, who is my executive summit producer, she has more than 350 of that kind of events under her belt. And she said to me, Alex, you want to have this live engagement. You want to have an opportunity where people from across the world can get together, can mingle, and can exchange their ideas and network. And I was like, oh, interesting aspect, because the funny piece is you would never think about that as an optional piece at a face-to-face event. This is probably one of the biggest reasons to go to such an event, right? In a face-to-face environment. You want to have that interaction, that networking. And I mean, who am I talking to? Yeah, you are the networking expert here. So when I then said to her, okay, how do we make this work? She said, live panels. I was like, what's a live panel? And then she led me into all these technical details and how it works and what we use it for. And the cool thing is about these live panels is that they are open to everyone. So also the speakers. There will be a huge bunch of speakers on these panels every day that people can interact with. And I think this is where it becomes really interesting. You're all of a sudden not just a face in a video that you look at. As a speaker, you're someone you can actually talk to. You are there as if you were there in the room. So we use technology to leverage and bridge the gap between what a virtual event can do and what a live event, a face-to-face event can do. So we kind of get the best of both worlds. You can watch those videos whenever it works for you. So you have the on-demand feeling and make it fit into your day on the one hand. And on the other hand, you have the live elements.
I really appreciate it. And I'm going to be curious and can follow up after with you about how you're designing those panels, because I saw quite a few speakers have signed up to be part of these conversations. And it's going to be, I think, a really rich dialogue. The last point I wanted to kind of underscore was, so it's a free event. And if you watch the content the day it comes out, great, you have access to it. But at some point, you're going to put it behind a paywall and charge people to have access to all this amazing content, which I think will be very worthwhile. But you're doing something very different with those funds. It's not being split with a speaker. It's not going just to you. I'm not promoting this event because by me putting up my link, I have the ability to make more money. Tell me a little bit about where the funds are going to for people who decide to upgrade.
So what people often don't know is that many summits do have something that's called an affiliate program. And what that means is every speaker that attends gets a personalized link and promotes the event. And the more people that person brings to the event, the bigger is their share when it comes to splitting up the revenues from the event. This is not how I approach things, because I said, this is an event. This is not my business model. My business model is not running events for money. So I said, I don't want to make money with it. I want to have an impact. I want to create something wonderful for people to enjoy. And the money that we make, and this is interesting because this came through my summit producer in the end, the how we make this. I said, the money that we make needs to go to causes worthwhile supporting. And when I said earlier in our conversation, Robbie, that I wanted to put a stake into the ground, at that point in time, I already had founded and run a childhood cancer charity fundraiser for years. So I said, why not make this an integral part of my business world? And on the other hand, I'm super passionate about environmental protection. I mean, you have kids as well. By 2100, the year 2100, they're going to be what, 80, 90 years, just like my son. And I'm like, if we don't do anything about preserving the environment and helping nature to stay intact to a certain degree, this planet will be a hot mess, like literally a hot mess. And we can't let this happen. So I said half of the money goes to childhood cancer research and half of the money goes to environmental protection. So, I mean, you know how it goes. Cool. An event like that costs money. We're talking, if I would value the time that I put in, forget it. We don't even, but just the money that I spend, it's close to 5 figures to put this event together. The preparation, the tech that you need, the people that you need to involve, all the marketing material that you need to create. Because that's another thing. I don't ask you guys to support and then let you do all the work. So we gave every speaker a handful of designs, videos, and everything that you can use in order to support the event. But that costs money. So in the end, it's my way of using the business and the reach that I have to support those 2 charities. It's not about making money. Money is abundant. There's so much money out there. It's just a question, how do you funnel it into the right directions?
So I think folks who got to this point in the conversation can see why I instantly liked you and trusted you. And this is why I had you be on my my podcast, which is episode 266, which I think came out last week, or might be actually today. I think it's today. I'm not sure now. But I think it's, I wanted to give you different platforms to share your story. And I want to just kind of run down the list of things that we covered that are differentiators. And I have my notes from what I posted in the LinkedIn post here, but the quality of the speakers and the fact that you've got like this amazing selection of nearly 50 experts in their field, the money raised through VIP ticket sales going to these 2 amazing charities, not just speakers or the host, an invitation, but not a requirement to join your email list. So no one's going to get spammed by signing up. And I'm just going to switch this here to this link so people know the sign up link to go. And I'll put it in the comments as well. The fact that there is live panels, 5 different options to join a live conversation and be part of a community talking about these different topics, and that there wasn't a promotion requirement. Like, I'm not required to do a live. I wasn't required to do an email today to my list. There wasn't like a minimum of 5. I mean, there's sort of a like a virtual summit in a box kind of thing. I mean, it might actually be called that for all I know, where there's a formula and you want to get 20 people and they have to have 5. You didn't ask me those questions. You're like, you've got something of value to share, and the audience will want to hear it. And if you want to help support these charities and get the word out, you'll want to do more. And honestly, I've done more for this than the ones I was required to do stuff for because of my own motivation. I think it's really a cool way to ignite people. So I hope the folks do get a chance to check it out. If you go to brueckmann.ca/Robbie, you can get all the details. Again, the event is called the Legacy, the premier strategic business event. I also really appreciate that you did not call it a virtual summit, because that means something different now to me. And that in itself indicated to me that you were doing something different. I love it. And I think you're really creative, and I really appreciate you. Where can people find you and follow your work?
Brueckmann.ca, or if my surname is difficult to spell for most people in the world, you just go to alexthestrategist.com. It brings you right to the landing page where you find all the information about this virtual event that we're running. And I'm just super grateful for people like you, Robbie, who picked it up, who were like, that sounds pretty cool. That's kind of different. Not everyone gets that. Not everyone even makes the effort to dig in and see whether it's something for them. So I really appreciate you and your work and all the support for this event.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure. And I hope folks do join us for those live conversations. And I'm curious to hear what people get from all the different sessions that I'm going to be planning to go to as well. Alex, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thanks so much.